Um, the second thing is that I see that you've listed four different sort of general topics that you're looking to raise as the substantial interference. One that you've listed, number one, is harassment by the landlord refusing rent in 2021. Um, can you give me some more information about refusing the rent in 2021? Because the attachments that you've attached was a lot of email correspondence, which was showing that you had been asking for the address of service
Yeah.
for where you could send your rent payments, but I'm not seeing a refusal of the rent being accepted unless it's just that incident where you had paid, sent two checks, and then one they appeared to have kept and the other they returned. So if you can just clarify for me what you mean there.
Okay, so yeah, I didn't send in all the evidence to you because it'd just be too many pages to fax. It's just partially,
Yes,
yeah.
and I wouldn't need or even have the resources to
Yeah.
go through everything, but that's okay, and that's what the conversation with you is about. So you can just express and share that information with me now, and we
Sure.
can go from there.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, there was been another incident after bankruptcy. Well, right after I signed my bankruptcy papers, I went to the bank and I got a money order because they told me that they will not be accepting any more like checks for me. It has to be either a
Mm-hmm.
money order or certified check. So I went to the bank, got like two money orders. I can pay like 2 months rent in advance just after bankruptcy because also my trustee told me that I cannot be late even one day after I sign the papers. I have to be on top of it. And
Mm-hmm.
so, that's what I did. And I was emailing them, like, where can I send this? They wouldn't like email them 5 times. It's all documented. They wouldn't respond. It actually went to the wrong address because they didn't tell me what address to send it to. They had to call the post office and just get them to redirect it, all that. Anyways, they finally got back to me on the eighth, ninth time when I can't remember all, like, I told them something and then they had to just get back to me. And then they got back to me and they said they received one money order, but they didn't receive the second one in the mail. And then I went back to the post office and I actually got proof that they did receive two money orders that were sent to them to their mailbox on the same time and the same day. But the landlord or one of their agents sent me an email saying they only received one. And
Mm-hmm.
and then so I had to go to the bank and see if I could get, I had to report that money order lost. Told them the situation, and the manager at the bank said CIBC that they cannot put the money back into my account until I get an affidavit signed by them claiming that they lost the rent check or they didn't receive it. So I had to do
Mm-hmm.
that, otherwise I lose the whole money order, right? So I sent them the affidavit and they never acknowledged it at all that they received it. I actually delivered it to their door when they're closed, put it under their door and sent them an email. This is the situation, explained everything. And then like
Mm-hmm.
2 days later, and this was like 2 weeks after, like, the proof that they received my both my money orders. Just 2 days later, I find a second money order that they claimed they didn't receive stuffed in my mailbox. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I put that because I spoke prior to getting in touch with you. I needed some advice on this. So while my paralegal who I got a loan to hire to represent me at the L1 hearing, he was still on, willing to help me with the T2. Just had to give him a bit of extra money. I had to get a loan from a friend to do that. And he advised me to put it in the T2 and term it as refusing rent. It would go under
Okay.
refusing rent. So that's why I put it under there.
Okay, right. So I see what you're saying. Basically, your angle there then would be to explain that you're doing the best that you can to make sure that your rent is now paid in full and on time, and that you find that the landlord in that event and what occurred basically set you up to not have your rent paid, and so that you're asking the board to order the landlord to refrain from doing that going forward. Is that correct?
Yes, just to, yeah, just not. to stop, like, because there've been other incidences where it's pretty clear they've been sabotaging my efforts to pay my rent in time. And there's a whole
Mm-hmm.
history of stuff to get me out of here. So because the rent is now higher for new tenants, right? It's $800 more plus hydro. So, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
this goes back 2019. I just never filed a T2 because I just really didn't have the resources at the time, and I didn't really know my rights at the time till it escalated, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so what you would then need to do is that your evidence in terms of attachments to show email correspondence and things like that, that wouldn't be unique in the substance of your T2. That would be supplementary evidence that you would submit, just like this hearing, 7 days prior to your hearing, to rely on and to refer to during your T2 hearing. But the T2 itself, you need to actually take the time to provide the details of the issue that you're claiming. So if issue, number one, substantial interference, landlord refusing to accept rent, you need to then go on to explain the details around the landlord refusing to accept rent. You can't just refer to your attachments. Okay, so take some time to write out what the landlord did, the date and time relevant, and how that amounted to a substantial interference of your reasonable enjoyment of the unit. And on the actual page where it requires those details, certainly if you don't have enough space there, you can just write the attached um, details, and then right behind that page, you can put the details, the attachment, whether that's an extra 2, 3 pages, however much you need to provide the information relevant. But you do have to actually provide a summary breakdown of the issues that you're raising with the relevant dates, times, and who was involved and how the interference occurred. And then there you can say, or you don't even need to mention the evidence at that point. You can then refer to the evidence during the hearing itself when you're discussing that particular issue. Does that make sense? So that's how you go about drafting it too. That's what the expectation is.
Okay, so basically, how I just described it to you verbally, would that be substantial enough to put it into words into the box there that they provided on a separate piece of paper describing how? Like, with that,
Yes, that's
what
right.
I said to
Yeah,
you?
just yeah, absolutely. Just be clear on the dates and exactly what transpired. Okay.
Okay,
Now,
got it.
Um, the second the second issue you raised was interfered with reasonable enjoyment by constant harassment.
Mhm.
So again, similar to that, you don't want to just refer and attach what the what the proof of the harassment is. You actually have to take time to write out what the harassment is, what when it was occurring, who was involved, and how it was affecting you. So a detailed breakdown of what that actual constant harassment is.
Okay, so like coming in and
Okay?
knocking loud on the door when I told them not to, like I'll just state that and the date those happen, right?
Exactly. Yes.